In the first ever Premier Ultimate League regular season, Medellin Revolution dominated with a 5-0 record and a plus 34 goal differential, making them the best team in the regular season. They have the best throwers. They're electric downfield. They're the best team. How could they lose? When Medellin goes to face Atlanta in the semifinals of the Premier Ultimate League Championship weekend, they'll be playing a team they've already beaten twice this season. And when they face off with Raleigh or New York, there's a fair chance they'll play a team they've also beaten. But this is not a team that's invincible. If you know where to look, you can make adjustments to take advantage. Revolution is deadly in the red zone, and their top-end throwers are too good to poach in front of. Their quick dish movement changes the angle of attack so quickly that you can get caught out of position really quickly, and you can see that movement on display. Sage Zerski does a nice job rolling on that initial cut. We're going to watch her through this play as she's going to end up sitting in the lane after taking away this initial open side cut. But because she sits in that lane, all it takes is one quick handler move later, and she pays the price. Now, again, we're going to look at another Revolution play against the Pride as we see the celebration. Mosquera checks it in after Medellin gets the disc on a huck. Now they're in the red zone, so they can go right into their red zone game. After a nice upline cut, we're going to see from Manu Cardenas. Knowles is going to try and help. Keep an eye on Knowles right here. Knowles is going to try and help on that open side, and that's all the window it takes for there to be a nice throwing lane from here to here. That's all that it takes to score, and it also silences that home crowd as that's a late goal for Revolution. If you are going to play some help D and defense space, your switches have to be smooth. We can see right here, Atlanta is getting caught up. They are not prepared for this switch. Let's rewind just a little bit. So you can see the two players who are going to be involved in the switch. Upline cut goes up the break side, and there's confusion over who should be where. And the top throwers have a variety of weapons to attack with, and that makes a thrower as good as Torres easy opportunity to throw a beautiful around up the line to Helton for a score. They have an arsenal of give-and-go cut maneuvers that are going to destroy loose marks, so close casually at your own peril. They even get you poaching away from the red zone. Here against the Radiants, Jessie Jones is actually going to try and help out on one of her teammates' cuts. Jones is going to be here, all right? So keep an eye on Jones. Jones is going to help to try and cut off the play from Colton. Gets beat. So Jones is helping here. Colton's getting beat here. You can also see Lisa Picaithley here. This is the cutter that is taking off deep, who we need to be concerned about now, and nobody is going to pick her up. In fact, Picaithley is going to point to ask for help rather than taking off, having recognized the deep cut. And Manu's able to put it out to Cartagena, and Jenny Way hung out to dry, so it's even an easy continue to Santos for the score. A hustling Santos. You can disrupt their offensive rhythm with timely poaches, but their best players are often going to make defenders regret decisions and demand discipline from your entire opposing D-line. If anybody gets beat and you have to help, they can make you pay. Because Revolution puts so much weight on their top players, more than any other team in the league, they can be vulnerable to fatigue. We've seen teams get up early on them and take advantage of them. Let's take a look at some of the numbers here. Revolution's top 7 players in points played just under 58% of their total points. That is way ahead of the other teams in the playoffs. You can see the Gridlock are about 13% behind that. The Radiants are 20% behind that in their points played, so it's really concentrated on those top 7 on Revolution. Medellin's top 5 also handle a huge amount of their offensive workload. They handled almost 61% of their touches this season, and you can see how that compares to the other teams in the playoffs. The Revolution well ahead of Gridlock, who are in second place by about 10%, and you can see the Radiance and Soul is well behind those numbers. So that Medellin offense is really concentrated in the 5 players that handle the most touches. That's Torres, Mosquera, Valeria, Manu Cardenas, and Yina Cartagena. Now, Raleigh took an early lead, as I said, on Revolution, who was traveling with a small roster, and that forced Medellin to claw back into the game, puts pressure on their top players to play a lot and play well. Look at the PUL coverage here. Yikes. This is going to be loose, kind of uninspired reset defense, a little bit of poaching in the lane. Helton tries to fire the team up with the block, but doesn't get there. The poach in the lane, probably intentional, but look at how loose these marks are. That's going to let Ashley Powell, maybe the best thrower on this Raleigh team, get into power position. And sure, her huck doesn't deliver, but I think the Radiants are going to take a look like that pretty much every time if given to them. Now, Revolution ends up scoring on this point to take a 10-9 lead, and I can't tell you if for sure that fatigue plays a role in this errant huck that we are in the process of seeing from Elizabeth Mosquera, but she did play 14 of the 18 points in the game prior to this. But what I really want to pay attention to is the possession by the defense here for Colombia. Medellin really struggles to play organized defense, and they look really fatigued. Cartagena is kind of awkwardly approaching on the line. You have Lindsay Sue unmarked. You have Lila Stanlin unmarked. And you've got Cartagena in the backfield walking with the person she's supposed to be covering. Now, to be fair, the person she's with is also walking, but as a defender, you don't have to slow down just because the offense slows down. Stanlin, number 14 on your screen, is so open that she's not even going to be contested as she takes off deep. These are fatigue errors to me from this Medellin offense, and look at how open Stanley gets on the back end of this play. So I think this type of fatigue is something you can get, particularly if you take a lead. And finally, Zemenia Montana on the mark here against Ann Worth, and you can see it's just a stagnant, static mark. That's not going to be enough against a vibrant thrower like Ann Worth, who punches in the goal to tie the game at 10-10. You can see how fired up the sideline is. Look again, Worth just going to step with a hard around, and Montana's just not even ready to respond to that. So really, I think the fatigue playing a factor here. Revolution also fell behind against the Pride on the road, and when they were at Columbus, they needed a comeback, and that comeback really worked their legs. Torres forces this huck into the stack, and then once on defense, Pride gets the disc moving, and Torres is guarding Sophie Knowles, probably the biggest offensive weapon on this team, and you can see how much room Knowles has as she comes under. But not only does Knowles have a lot of room, but Torres opts to sit in the lane rather than pick up Knowles on the mark, and that means that this is an uncontested, easy toss into the end zone for Emily Barrett for the Pride goal. Brings them back within one and sends juice into the home crowd. I think you can see how fatigue can play a factor on this Revolution team. If you can jump out to an early lead, put pressure on their top 5, avoid giving up easy scores, but I think you can put them behind the 8 ball and try and take advantage of that late in the game. That could be what gets a team an upset here in the Premier Ultimate League playoffs.
It's been a tremendous season for Medellin Revolution. They're undefeated, they've been the most dominant team in the league, and they're led by some of the league's best players and potential MVP candidates. But when they head down to Atlanta on Friday and Saturday, there will be 2 games standing between them and a title, and a few adjustments could be the thing that ends up being their downfall if they're not careful. But if things continue the way that they've been going, there's no doubt Revolution will be dancing their way to the first Premier Ultimate League Championship.